Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic slash non-classic. This is episode number 584 and Doubleshot number 487. Two DC trades. First up, it is Deathstroke, Volume 4, Family Business. This is the last trade that collects issues from the previous volume of Deathstroke, which was started by Tony S. Daniel, though with the second arc, James Booney came on board, and he stuck on for pretty much the rest of the series at that point. James Booney took over pretty much as a sole writer with the book with issue 13, and pretty much the last 8 issues all by himself. And he had one of the most bizarre conclusions I've ever seen. Like, okay, introduce this character called the Lawman. This guy here on the back. Yeah, by the way, after the storyline wraps up, him and the 4 other villains who pop up in here are never seen again. It's kind of like this whole thing was just a bit bizarre. Also, Deathstroke at the start of this run got de-aged to being, look like he's probably in his early 40s, I'd say. I don't really know exactly how Deathstroke is supposed to be. He looks like he's probably in his early 50s. Yeah, he's an old man. Yeah, but at the end of this run, he goes back being old. Yep. Also, they had Ra's al Ghul pop up in here. Now, this trade collects the last 4 issues of Volume 3, which is issue 1720. The second annual, which I kind of forgot this annual even existed. I remember the first annual. This annual I completely forgot about because of how forgettable the story is. Oh yeah, and also the recent issue of Green Arrow actually followed up with this annual. What happened in the annual? Deathstroke overthrew some dictator and pretty much threw the whole country in chaos. Yep, that's the whole point of the story. And it takes place right after issue 20 and before the rebirth stuff. Yeah, pretty much the 4 issues themselves pretty much wrap up what James Booney been trying to do with the book since he took over at issue 13. Yeah, as for the 4 villains, like Lawman, there was a few other villains. Let's just look them up here. I know one was a Lawman. He's one of them. There was like a few others. One was a woman and a Snake Man. Yeah. Also, they also have a brief tie-in to what happened in Endgame with having Red Hood pop up. Yeah, Red Hood. Jason Todd popped up in here as well. Batman, I was a little surprised to see. I mean, if you read this, like, okay, you remember Batman show up in the first arc. I mean, by the time you get this, you kind of forget Batman even show up at all. At least in the first arc, you play a small role in that. This shows up for a quick cameo just to promote Endgame. Yeah, that's really the whole point of this particular arc. That's the whole point of him being there. Oh, and what happens to the 4 villains? They all join the League of Assassins. Now, Deathstroke and his 2 kids, Rose and Jericho, briefly joins up with the League of Assassins, but he turns against Ra's, and then he is basically released from the League of Assassins. The 4 villains he's fighting here get defeated, but Deathstroke doesn't kill them at all. He just lets them live because they joined the League of Assassins. As far as I know, they've never returned. This is probably by far a somewhat forgettable arc because unlike with the Tony S. Daniel one run where it's pretty memorable, this is kind of forgettable because it's just Deathstroke, Ravager, and Jericho taking on 4 forgettable villains, and they defeat the villains but don't kill them, and they join the League of Assassins, and I mean, you don't think it's accomplished, that's pretty much a story thing that's back to normal. I think the reason why James Booney decided to undo something Tony S. Daniel, de-aging Deathstroke, like restoring to his natural age, I think the reason why he did that because in Rebirth, he was probably told, yeah, Deathstroke needs to go back to being the way he was, and yeah. The annual itself is not written by James Booney at all. The first annual for the series was done by Tony, so he wrote and drew the thing. The annual was done by Phil Hester. Yeah, he did the annual. Yeah. The artwork in here is done by Tyler Kirkham, Paolo Patina, Marco Cloak, and Roberto Basiva. The cover is done by Tyler Kirkham and Tamo Mori. Yeah, Tamo Mori basically doesn't do anything. I think he does the coloring in here. Excuse me. Yeah. Though it kind of begs the question of why did James Booty create this character Lawman, and then just do almost nothing with him except the fact he's an old acquaintance of Deathstroke, and yeah, he's not really much. He briefly brainwashes Rose to try to kill Slade. Aside from that, yeah, these villains are very forgettable. I kind of forgot the rest of the villains' names. I mean, aside from Lawman, because this guy could look to him, it's just that we have a Snake Man, a woman, and one air guy. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. So, despite the fact this run started off really good, it's a very disappointing end to this really good run. And as of now, I own all the trades that collect Volume 3 of Deathstroke. Now, the first trade I bought from a comic shop, the second and third volume by Barnes & Noble, this I bought from Amazon. And this also took a while to come in. I'm not kidding. Yeah, that book actually arrived 2 days late. This book actually surprisingly arrived early, like 2 days after I ordered it. Bam, it's here. And this book is a crossover that I talked about a few episodes back, and that's Batman slash The Flash, The Button, collecting Batman Volume 3, Issues 21 to 22, and Flash, Volume 5, Issues 21 to 22. Yeah, this, well, I think it's a lot better than that Deathstroke book. This book is really amazing. Yeah, they also have the covers like this as well, the main series. Yeah, pretty much with this particular book, I mean, this event came out just last year, and it was the first crossover Batman's had since Night of the Monster Men. I'm like, that one was 6 parts. This one was only 4. And despite being called Deluxe Edition, they don't really add anything new to the actual issues themselves. Yeah, it's the same exact way as what they went when it was originally presented. Also, I heard something really interesting, though. Apparently, when this trade came out last year, apparently it was a really good selling trade. It was probably the most highest selling trade of last year because people love this story. Pretty much the whole point of the story is following up with the Button. Yep, an object that showed up during DC Rebirth as of this year, like 2 years ago, and up into the story, nothing was done with this Button at all. Yeah, the story starts out with Saturn Girl watching a hockey game of all things, saying, oh yeah, these people are about to die, though also Johnny Thunder pops up in here. He keeps calling for his Thunderbolt. Yeah, and the whole thing with the JSA is about being teased back in DC Rebirth. DC is very slow to do anything with the JSA. Apparently, Tom King and Josh Williamson actually remembered the stuff, remember that little plot point, and put it in here. Yeah, Tom King and Josh Williamson do all 4 issues. Yeah, despite the fact Batman is normally written by Tom King, Josh Williamson is listed as co-writer, and it's vice versa with Flash, which is normally done by Josh Williamson, and the co-writing is done by Tom King. The artwork is done by 2 fantastic artists, Jason Fabok and Howard Porter. Yeah, Howard Porter is a veteran Flash artist, so this is not the first time he drew the Flash. As a matter of fact, after this crossover wrapped up, he stuck on as the artist for Flash for a good 12 issues before handing back off to the original writer. He was on the book for a good period of time, which gotta praise Williamson for actually keeping this guy on even afterwards. Jason Fabok, I'm only familiar with this guy due to his artwork in the pages of, I believe it was Detective Comics did run for that, and he was also the last artist for Justice League before DC Rebirth. They're both really damn good artists. Oh yeah, and the opening issue, I know it's kind of a spoiler, but it came out a year ago. Yeah, the opening issue, yeah, the panel, the way it's set up in here, it's set up like Watchmen. Yep, it's set up like Watchmen. Yep. Set up like the frickin' Watchmen. Which I have done a review of that trade way back in my 25th episode of this series. Yeah, that was almost 5 years ago I did that, but I have reviewed Watchmen. Yes, I have. Though I barely remember what I said in the action because my opinion is that The Watchmen is a good series and I highly recommend checking it out. This pretty much is a setup for the sequel to Watchmen, Doomsday Clock. Yep. Oh yeah, and the whole thing with this one is that this is pretty much like Josh Williamson and Tom King being like epic fanboys and bringing a bunch of stuff we haven't seen in years. Like there's this one, I think it was in part 2, was right after Reverse Flash got killed. Yeah, Reverse Flash got killed, and yeah, Barry's into a crime scene because well he's a CSI, so why not do that? And then he goes to the Watchtower, and you see these various objects in here. Okay, in the Watchtower, and this is what I'm looking at, I see the Bug, I see Martian Manhunter's original costume, Aquaman's trident, Wonder Woman's shield, the dial, the dial H for hero, the dial. Let's see what else. I see what looks like Azrael, and probably the biggest surprise of all. A lot of people were very happy to see this thing post Flashpoint because this thing had never showed up prior to this story because I read every single issue for Flash prior to this, and this thing never showed up. What is this thing? It's the Cosmic Treadmill, one of the most frequent recurring objects of the Flash mythos. Yeah, though they do have a kind of a nod to this in the Flash TV show with him running on a treadmill. The whole point of the Cosmic Treadmill is it allows the Flash system to go back in time. And the way that, oh yeah, and also, this is something I thought was really interesting though. Now, Batman, because he had the button touch the Psycho Pirate's mask, he had it where, yeah, during the thing, he actually encountered the Flashpoint-Batman, which prior to this story, the last time he was seen was back in Convergence. Yeah, so it had been like 2 years. Yeah, it only been just 2 years since anybody's seen the Flashpoint-Batman, who was Thomas Wayne, by the way. And then in part 3, they go to the Flashpoint Earth. This is actually the first the actual Earth that's been seen. Now that it's a battle zone, a battle world. First time it's been physically seen since Flashpoint. When this came out, it had been 6 years. As for how much time passed by since Flashpoint, since the relaunch, I think they said it's been like a couple years. Yeah, I think they said it's been at least 2 years since the whole Flashpoint stuff. And of course, they later catch up with Reverse Flash later, who kind of dies. And the last thing you see before you see promotion for Doomsday Clock, and you see a blue arm in hand pick up the button. Now, this has been confirmed to be Dr. Manhattan. Yep, thus setting up the epic fight that's going to happen in Doomsday Clock, Superman versus Dr. Manhattan. Despite the fact Dr. Manhattan is basically the Watchman's anagram to Captain Atom. Yes. Though it seems a little odd though because even though he kind of is also basically that world's version of Superman, he's technically Captain Atom. I'm surprised that he doesn't get a chance to fight Captain Atom in that particular thing. This particular storyline is epic and great. I highly recommend if people who are going to check out Doomsday Clock or are currently checking Doomsday Clock, this basically plants the seeds for that. And in the case of the Batman stuff, it takes a little while to actually, it's not like immediately afterwards, the after effects of this thing. It takes like a good, I'd say a couple issues after this wraps up before it finally does have some sort of effect. It has more bigger effect in Flash than it does in Batman. But at least Tom King is having some ramifications for it. It's not as big as Flash, but at least some ramifications. I'm going to get this book a 9.75 out of 10. It's an amazing book. I highly recommend it for people who are fans of Batman, the Flash, and of course, the Reverse Flash. Yeah, he's my favorite Flash villain. Alright, so that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, which is going to be 2 volume 2s of trades I have reviewed previously. Alright? But until I see you in the next episode, bye.